Okay everyone, and I'm still in Paris, France, and I just wanted to take this time to do a little piece just to explain what I'm up to this next 2 or 3 weeks. I think it's nice for you guys to know that I take the mantra that I was taught by my coach very, very seriously, that sometimes you're a teacher but always you're a student. And so periodically through the year I take trips such as this one for exactly that purpose, to test and challenge and develop myself. Make sure what I'm teaching is valid and learn new stuff, and give me the ability to pass that on and reflect that better. Basically I do a lot of what's called self-referencing. I'm not particularly convinced that something's going to work until I've actually physically gone and done it myself. And so that's what this trip's all about. I do a lot of the wilderness survival, I also do the urban preparedness, but I live in quite a remote region, so every now and then I like to get to a good dense population centre and really challenge myself on the urban side of things. So basically with a trip to Paris, what I really did was kind of turn up completely unprepared. I packed a certain amount of kit in a bag. I was very fortunate that the reason I came to Paris specifically was I needed to apartment sit for a friend of mine that's away for two weeks. And so that gave me the nice opportunity to have somewhere to be based and obviously keep the prices down. We've all got our budgets to mind, unfortunately. But with that in mind, that was basically the limit of the preparation. I had an address for that apartment, and I knew where I was flying into, and I didn't prepare any more than that. And what I really sort of envisaged in my mind was kind of an exceptional bug out scenario that I'm literally having to go to a whole of the country. Relatively unprepared, definitely unfamiliar with the layout. Not familiar with the language. I admit I had high school French taught me, but that was over 20 years ago now. I really would not class myself as linguistically current in this country. And basically arriving cold with limited money and seeing, what problems you encounter and how you sort of surmount those. So that was the whole premise of this scenario. I've been here 3 days now, and I just really wanted to reflect on some of the key things that I already anticipated that I would need to do from exercises previous to this one, but that really reinforced that I just want to sort of get across to you. So imagine this is just a conglomerate of sort of top tips for my first 2 or 3 days in country. I don't intend to do a lot of pieces on this because it's really about me learning as opposed to me teaching right now, but there's definitely some pieces I want to do on this and sort of consolidate and pass on. So the first thing I wanted to think about is just basically what I'm carrying with me the whole time. I have like a small backpack with me that's got a complete clothing system in it on top of what I'm wearing. Today's actually very, very nice weather, but it's been down to -1, -2 Celsius, been windy, been rainy here. That's a challenging environment to be out in. And what I really wanted to picture in the scenario is that, excuse me, you can tell how cold it's been, I've picked up a bit of a cold. That I needed to be out and about a lot during the day, sort of information gathering, so I wanted to be sort of self-sufficient as I went. Now, one of the first things I did when I got here was, of course, pick up some good mapping, and I just want to show you that. I basically got this small A to Z of the city, €7, approximately $7 at the exchange rate as it stands at the moment. And what I wanted here was a relatively good quality street map, but not ridiculously oversized. The absolute priority for this is I wanted enough detail, but I wanted it to be discreet. And you see this literally just fits in my pocket here. What I don't want to do is stand out as a tourist, with this huge great big map sheet holding it in front of me, obvious that I don't know where I am. The key thing in my mind arriving in a new environment on the urban side of things is the ability to blend. And the first day, that's what I just practiced, or what I really worked on, was just being out in the city, looking at how the locals act, seeing the courtesies, trying to pick up some of the basic phraseology of, again, the pleasantries, and really just working on the awareness. Bear in mind, the week before I got here, I spent 10 days out of my cabin working wilderness survival, out still in the Arctic at -15. So it's a big environment shift. So you've just got to get out there and start picking up that. Now, obviously in the beginning I was looking to stay in the major population centres. I didn't want to start drifting off into any sort of bad territories. That will come in time, just to get the familiarity with those. But it was a case of staying in the major areas and just picking up the kind of the vibe and the pace of the city. Now, as I say, detail on this map book and discretion. I want to have the ability to reference this very, very easily, so I understand the indexes and I practice with that, but also with discretion. One of the things I did actually pick up was there's this free magazine you get every day in the metro the underground system here, and I basically put my A to Z in that when I need to refer it. So to all intents and purposes, it looks like I'm sat reading the sort of the local daily journal, and instead I'm actually looking at my A to Z book in there, and then planning stages of my journey. Supplemental to that, I got a much more comprehensive transport guide. So this is a larger sort of fold-out map. Now this isn't something I want to be parading around like a flag. This is something absolutely I plan my journeys with in a safer location, or actually where I've been staying prior to the day commencing. And if necessary, I just make some discrete notes on that on a post-it note or a small piece of paper as a memory jog. So this is kind of my larger planning map of getting around the transport system. This absolutely is my street map, so I can identify where I am if I'm a little unsure, or again to sort of plan routes and journeys and things like that. This was very, very easy to get hold of. I literally came out of the airport, and the first newsstand I hit, I just looked through the selection of maps that they had and picked up the one I felt sort of best appropriate. The transport map was free from the information centre at the first train station I came across. So literally my priority on getting off the plane, collecting my bags, was just to be able to have the ability to orientate myself to the local area. So that's top tip number one. Good street map, good transport map. Now, top tip number two is then actually using those. And so day one and day two, I literally spent the whole day out just getting around the transport system. Now the very, very nice thing they've got actually here in Paris, but I'm seeing more and more in Western cities now, is this kind of unlimited pass system. So this was a 1 week pass, €20, approximately $20, that gives me unlimited travel. So with that, I basically just spent 2 days getting around every single sort of transport hub I could think of. This is the underground system, this is the tram system, and it's also the bus system. So I literally challenged myself. I just had my map. Okay, I want to get from here to here. In the beginning I was taking some quite long-winded routes. That was nice just to orientate myself to the ground and start to pick up some of the major landmarks. And then on the second day I started to get a little bit more aggressive of like, how can I get from point A to point B the fastest or the most efficient. And actually within that 48-hour span, it gave me the ability, certainly not to be like a local, but a relative degree of confidence. I can definitely navigate my way around this city. With that confidence then gives you the ability to move on to the next stages. And if I'm looking at the urban preparedness side of things, I'm basically arriving here with a limited amount of cash in my pocket and the stuff I managed to crash into my bug out bag and go. So it's all about resource identification. Now again, by travelling around the city that much, it really enabled me to start to identify what resources are abundant, what resources are more scarce, and therefore if I'm going to invest any money into acquiring resources and holding with me, what the focus on that should be. And that's going to be a piece I'm going to do a little bit later on from the apartment that I'm staying, purely because I'm catching a lot of background noise here, I know, and I haven't got the ability to kind of spread this stuff out in front of me. So I want to do that piece when I've actually got the examples and the items with me. Okay. As well as the ability to navigate the transport system and understand the street maps, I just want to go back to that, picking up the sort of the vibe and the pace of the city, and that's just down to awareness and observation. So a lot of the time when I was just travelling, you know, it would have been easy just to, look at the scenery or get my head in a book or something. Instead, no. What you want to be doing is literally, not invasively, but just watching how people are moving, looking at the courtesy points, looking at the conflict points, looking at, the different times of day, and really assessing the ebb and flow. Now the nice thing for me is actually this is where the wilderness awareness just links directly across to the urban side of things. If you're aware in the wild, when you're picking up in the natural state and natural animals, those rhythms, very, very easy to do that in an urban environment. There's a lot more information, it's quite tiring, you're getting a huge amount of information pouring in, far more than in nature, but with good awareness skills you can do that. And I've picked up some nice things which are just kind of latent in my own mind right now. I don't want to share them particularly at this minute because I'm just kind of processing what they mean to me. Final point I'm going to make on this piece is personal safety. Now I'm going to do a special segment on awareness and self-defense a little bit later, but just in the beginning, and I'm just going to basically quote directly my good friend Rory Miller, author of Meditations on Violence and Facing Violence, two of the best-selling books on urban awareness and street self-defense on the market nowadays. And he says 99% of your trouble can be averted by not going to bad places where bad people congregate to do bad things at bad times. So guys, just use your intuition and instincts with that. If an area is looking dodgy and run down and a bit ropey, just don't go there. Turn around and go back to where you were coming from. What I did on day one was stick to the major tourist areas. That was the simplest thing here. It's a heavy police presence, a good security presence, lots of people, far more sort of target, big targets painted on them than me. So you see there an element of safety, also big examples of not what to do, what not to do, because you see the Mark 1 target and you just don't want to be that person. Look at all the mistakes they make and avoid doing it yourself. So stick to the safe areas in the beginning. For me, at the level I want to train at now, absolutely I'm going to drift out to some of the less desirable areas, and I've already been to 1 or 2 spots. But then, you know, I've spent a long time doing this, and that's the level I want to work at right now. But if you ever do exercise like this yourself, or you get the opportunity, absolutely think about your own safety in the beginning. Don't do anything crazy. Just start off nice and gentle. Start at the big population centres, blend in with the crowd, and a lot of your problems are going to be removed. Okay? So that was just this brief update. There will be more coming, and I'll see you guys soon.